So welcome to today's video. We are taking a closer look at the Schmincke Horadam Signature Edition. We do have 5 different colors here. 3 of them are in cooperation with artists, and 2 of them aren't labeled as done with a special person. So I think that's just done by Schmincke themselves. So yeah, one is a single pigment. That is the first color, Buff Titan, better known also as Buff Titanium. We do have this from many different brands. It's PW6 column 1. Basically what that is an uncleaned or unwashed Titan white or titanium white. If you have a PW6 titanium white, that is basically the cleaned version without the impurities. Buff titanium is basically the dirty version of it. I only own one other version from Daniel Smith. I do know that many different brands do offer it. I was already asked in my shorts if or how they are different, which one is warmer, which one is cooler. So definitely the Schmincke version is a lot warmer than the version I do have from Daniel Smith. It has a very warm yellowish undertone, whereas the Daniel Smith version, for example, has more like a cool brown undertone, like we know from a raw umber, for example. So it's very different in how warm it is. I personally must say I absolutely love it, and I do like it so much that I highly consider buying a second tube to put in my drawer where I kept all my doubles in, which I do own from, for example, limited editions I loved very much, or from pigments that are out of production and I have stocked up or got my hands on some. So yeah, I highly consider buying a second tube. So if you are someone who has a lot of Buff Titaniums and do know other brands that offer this very warm version, for example, I would love to hear in the comments to have an alternative to it. Not that I say I would consider buying a second tube less there, but also to know if there is another brand doing it, doing a warm version like that. So yeah, definitely something I do love. That's also has a nice granulation, that one, that Buff Titan. Sadly, on that paper it doesn't turn out very strongly. You can see it in my shorts, and I will show you the swatches, the dried shorts swatches in the end of the video as well, where you can see the granulation a lot better. I don't know why it doesn't show that well on that paper, because that's honestly the better paper than I've used in the shorts. So sometimes that's funny. But yeah, that's definitely a color I don't use very often, even if I do like it. For example, I do like it if you combine it with a magenta and then use it for dawn, when the sun rises or the sun goes down, colorings. That gives the whole piece really a nice touch. So yeah, sadly, like I said, I don't use it very often. I tend to forget that I do have the color. That's probably the problem with it. Okay, so the second color is called Wild Purple. It's in cooperation with Vita's artwork. If I do remember, I will link the channel in the description box. As far as I know, she's a German artist. Very, very good artist as well. Yeah, It is a beautiful color. My only problem is it's basically a muted version of Rose of Ultramarine or any other brand offering magenta ultramarine mix. We do have it from multiple brands, especially in all their super granulating versions, or they don't call it super granulating colors, mostly it's granulating colors. But yeah, if you have these color separation super granulating colors from different brands, there are so many magenta ultramarine mixes. I do really love the color, but I'm a little bit over it because there are so many brands offering their version, and I do own a lot of versions already. And yes, this is a very muted version because of the PG17 that is in it. That's the chromium oxide green. We don't see it really in color separation or so, or in the granulation a lot. You really have to go very, very closely to have some specks that look a little bit darker as the ultramarine granulation, where it could be that it is the chromium oxide green, as it is also a granulating color, but the amount seems to be so low that you don't really can see it. So yeah, I definitely will use all the four mixes. Also, I will integrate it in the How to Mix series, and I definitely want to try mixing this color with a higher amount of the PG17. It will definitely change the color, how it looks completely, but I'm honestly a little bit curious if you can get the PG17 to look through here without completely destroying the color. That would be interesting. But yeah, it is, like I said, a beautiful color. But if you have any version of magenta ultramarine mix already, it's a lot easier just to put some PG17 in it, and you have the same result probably. Nice to have, definitely a not must have color in my personal opinion. Like I said, I do love the color per se, but there are just too many brands offering their versions, so it just feels not special enough anymore. I don't know if you know what I mean. So yeah, that's that. Then we have Atoll Blue, which is PB16, that's a phthalo blue, and PG50. PG50 is a cobalt pigment that can make different colors, like green, for example, or a turquoise. And how the color looks, I'm completely sure that they've used the turquoise version, because the green granulates very strongly normally, or not very strongly, but you would see the color would completely look different. Phthalo turquoise is a very dark color as well, so we have a green and a dark turquoise. The color would be darker. We would have we probably would see a green granulation, which we don't. Cobalt turquoise is a color that granulates, but of course we do have a granulation here. It is very mild, and we don't have a color separation effect because we have two turquoises, and even if they are different, the phthalo color definitely overpowers the very light cobalt turquoise, so that we can't see any color separation effects going on here. So nice color, but a little bit underwhelming in the department of, we do have two, I think, colors that are similar, not completely similar in their shade. They are definitely cooler, I think, and a little bit lighter, not as dark. The color here, you can see it in the corner. It can get a lot darker when you are using more pigment. So that's definitely different, but we have two colors in the Schmincke Super Granulating colors that are very similar in the department of, we have this lighter turquoisey kind of blues that granulates mildly. We have no color separation effect going on. And I said it in the How to Mix series, because I've mixed them already, that they are nice to look at, but they are a little bit underwhelming. And if you're not someone who has a lot of money to spend, that are colors I definitely would not buy again, or recommend to buy, because yeah, like I said, it's a beautiful color, and if you have the pigments, it's probably very easy to mix yourself. If you have the funds to go for it, then of course it's always nice to have, and if you are like me, a mixing lazy person, then it's also something, when you say, oh, it's a beautiful color, I want to use it a lot, where I say, yeah, definitely then go for it. But if your money situation is very limited, that's definitely a color I would skip, just because you can more easily recreate it yourself, and the effect is not very strongly. Of course, if you are someone who don't like color separation and granulation as strongly as I do, then probably your view of the color may be different. So it's always a personal preference thing. So, but yeah, for me personally, it was a little bit more on the underwhelming side, just because of the granulation color separation effect, and not per se of the color shade itself, because the color shade is a beautiful turquoisey blue. So then we have the Kölner Brückengrün, or Cologne Bridge Green, which is also one of the colors that was in cooperation color. Here we have a cooperation of Dirk Schmidt. I honestly don't know anything about him, so if you have any information, please do share. Yeah, that's probably the color with the highest amount of different pigments in it I've ever seen offered from any brand, because we have 6 different pigments in this mixture. That's a very, very high amount. We have PW4, which is Chinese white. We have PW6, which is the titanium white, the cleaned version. Then we have PY42, which is synthetic yellow iron oxide. Then we have PR242, which is a diazo scarlet. Then we have PG7, which is phthalo green blue shade. And then we have PG18, which is the genuine viridian. So a lot of green. A lot of pigments, sorry. We have 2 greens. PG7 and PG18 are very similar in their color shade, but the phthalo green is a lot stronger and gets a lot darker, whereas the PG18 is more a lighter, more delicate version, and it has this very beautiful granulation. So I guess they used here the viridian for the granulation properties and the PG7 to get the color darker. As you also can see in the corner, it can get quite dark. So that wouldn't be possible if you only used the PG18. Then the PR242 is definitely a color you don't really can see per se in a color separation effect or so. So I guess the amount is probably not very high on that one. We have 2 different whites, I guess probably because the titanium white is a very opaque white in comparison to the Chinese white. Chinese white is a very very transparent white. So I guess probably the mixture of both, because they didn't want the color to be super opaque. And the PY42 to get it this yellowish shade, which wouldn't be if you just mixed the greens with the whites. Then we would have a completely different cool green, pastel green color. So that's probably the reason for the yellow pigment. We do have a very strongly, or not very strong, very strongly, but a strongly granulating color. We do see a lot of the PG18 here. We do have a color separation effect between the PG18 and the rest of the colors here, which are, if you see the swatch here, definitely these yellowish warm green in comparison. We don't have a color separation between all the pigments, that not, but we do have a color separation between those two parts. And to be honest, the first thing I thought was, would it be possible to mix this color with the Buff Titan and switch out the PW4, PW6 and the PY42 to the Buff Titan here from Schmincke? Because we have two whites and we have a yellow. To get the whites more yellowish, why not using the Buff Titan instead? That was the first thought I thought, and make it a 4 pigment mix that way. Could be. So just a suggestion. I will definitely try to do that in the How to Mix series, but as it is, I still have a lot of the super granulating colors from Schmincke to do before I'm switching to something else. So it will take some time until I'm at the point. And if you have tried my suggestion before, please let me know in a comment your results. Would be interested to hear that. Yeah, I was asked in the past why I do it, the How to Mix series the way I do, and do really one company after another, just so that you know. I mentioned it already, I think, in the past, but the reason I do this is when in future you want to find a certain color, it's a lot easier to find the certain color if we have all the colors from one brand next to each other. So if you then go to the playlist and say, okay, I want to find a color from Schmincke, you go down and know, okay, there are all the Schmincke colors together. It's a lot easier to find that way. So yeah, that's that. Okay, so back to these colors here. To be honest, when I read the pigments, that was probably the color I was least excited about, just because of the two different whites in it. But to be honest, after the Buff Titan, that's my favorite color of all of the colors here. I'm super surprised about that. But yeah, it just has something, this cool green granulation with the warm yellowish green. Looks very beautiful. I really do like it. So, and the last color is Shadow Gray, and this is also a cooperation color with Anna at Draw Better. We have here two pigments, so it is not so hard to recreate. We have a PO20, which is cadmium orange, and we have the PB29, ultramarine blue. We have, as a result, a very bluish gray, which I do like, because I love cool or neutral grays or blacks the most. Not so much a fan of warm there. Yeah, it is per se a beautiful color, probably very easy to mix because of the very low amount of granulation I can see in this color and no color separation effect going on here. I'm pretty sure that they probably used the Ultramarine Finest, which is an ultramarine that Schmincke offers that has a super low amount of granulation, and when you use that for mixing you don't get a color separation effect because of the low granulation. So there are other brands offering ultramarine finest as well, or their version, or just have an ultramarine that is super low in granulation. You could use as well those, of course, if you want to recreate a mix like that. I honestly would be interested in how it would look if we use, for example, a French ultramarine which granulates very strongly or so, or another strongly granulating ultramarine. So I will probably mix this just to see how it looks, and if we can have a orange-blue granulation separation effect that way. If you have ever tried this, I would love to hear your experiences with that. So yeah, it is very easy to mix, and we do have a lot of bluish cool grays, for example, Payne's Gray. There are definitely versions out there that look very similar. We have the Jane's Gray, which is a PR 101 PB29 mix that is also a cooler bluish gray. We do have so many gray mixes offered that contains PB29. So there are definitely a lot of cool bluish grays. So that is, next to the white purple, a color where I say the chances that you have something that is at least similar, if you consider the attributes cool, bluish gray, the chances that you have something that goes in that direction is definitely high. So that's why that is also one of the colors I say nice to have, definitely are not must buy, and only buy if you have enough funds, just because I say it is super easy to recreate. It is very easy to mix similar bluish grays, and the chances that you maybe have already a gray mix that is similar is there, definitely. So that's that. I personally say, like I said, it is a beautiful color, and it's probably an amazing color for shadows in every possibility. Not that I want to undermine the color itself, because it is, like I said, beautiful, but just for money purposes, if you are low on a budget, or just don't want to spend tons of monies, that's something just to consider. Just think about before ordering colors. Do I have something similar already, or is this mix definitely worth buying? For me personally, not my opinion, but also your opinion. That's the most important one. Is this a color you will use tons of? That's always a thing where I say buying a mixed color is very oh gosh, I'm missing the word. I have to read. Sorry, I really have to Google it, because I don't want to skip it for another another word. And if you are grumbling, that's my tummy. I'm really sorry about it. Yeah. Justified. I wasn't sure if that's the, I really had to look it up. Justified. It's always a justified buy is if you say, I absolutely love that mix, and I know I'm using it already tons of, or I will using it tons of, to say, okay, I'm buying the mix just because it's so much easier to save that amount of time. That's always a thing where I say it's justified to buy. So yeah, but like I said, personal preferences, personal money situation, how much do you use the color. Just not that I say you can't buy colors which don't fall in this criteria, but that's always something I personally consider before buying. And you realize probably already that I'm late with a video about this signature edition because it's out for a while now. But I really thought a lot about, do I want to buy the colors or not? And I came to the decision that, yeah, I want to buy the colors, but I took some weeks, months. I don't know, they are out for 2 months already or so. So I take really a lot of time to consider if I want to buy those or not. And that is definitely something to consider, especially because I know that Schmincke colors are overseas or in different countries a lot higher priced than here in Germany. So when I buy a tube for 9 euros here and the tube cost like 19 euros at your place, that's a lot of a difference to consider as well. Like I said, Schmincke is a lot cheaper here in Germany. And especially I know in the US, for example, it's a very, very expensive brand. Or in New Zealand or Australia, countries that are far away. So that is always something to consider. If the color really is highly expensive, is it really worth buying it, or is it better I buy the pigments and mix the color myself, for example? Just also something to consider. Depending where you live, prices are very, very differently. And it doesn't have to be always cheaper in the countries the colors are made, because funny side story, I was last year and the year before in the UK, and I thought looking up art materials there, and for example watercolors that are made or are UK brands like Winsor and Newton, for example, and I thought they should be cheaper there, but they're not. The funny thing was that Winsor Newton Professional is cheaper in Germany than it is in the UK. So not always it is cheaper in the countries they are made of. The same color I've bought, for example, for 15 euros in Germany, I would have, if I would consider how the pound was at the time to the euro, if I would convert it, I would have bought the same for like 18 to 19 euros, the same color, the same tube size. So they were definitely a lot more expensive in Britain than they are here. So that's also something to consider. Not always are the brands cheaper in the countries they are made, and sometimes you get a good deal on those if they are on sale, for example, in a shop. Then you can get them maybe for a very good price. So yeah, something to consider. Like I said, all color mixes contain pigments that are easily available from multiple brands. Just take a look which are the cheapest at your place. There are some expensive pigments in here, like the cobalt pigment, the cadmium pigment, the viridian. Those brands are brands, if you are, especially if you are on a budget, I highly consider using brands, for example, like Rosa Gallery or White Nights, because they don't have a high price range between expensive and non-expensive pigments. And if you buy a 10 milliliter tube for a cobalt turquoise, for example, or a cadmium orange, I don't know if they offer a viridian, but I do know that they offer cobalt turquoises and cadmium oranges for 3 euros, for example. It's a very cheap for very expensive pigments like that. So that is my personal tip for buying expensive pigments. Use brands that they are a lot cheaper than others, and still have a high artist quality grade. like that, for example, because the cheap the expensive pigments you don't get in student grade colors, for example. So yeah, that is also something. They are definitely nice to have, but they are not a must-have. My personal highlight is the Buff Titan. Yes, I know there are multiple brands offering it, but this warm yellowish version is new for me personally, because I only own one Buff Titan, or owned one Buff Titan so far. So I don't know which brands are maybe very similar to that, but if you know, please let me know. That is definitely something I consider very beautiful. It has a beautiful granulation, it has a beautiful color shade, love it. Then next to it, it was the Cologne Bridge Green, which definitely was super surprising to me. After that, the Wild Purple, just because I do, like I said, I do love the color itself, the mix between the magenta and the ultramarine blue. Probably the most underwhelming for me personally was the Atoll Blue and the Shadow Grey, just because there are a lot of bluish grays. Not that I say the colors aren't beautiful, because they are definitely beautiful, but there are just missing the special something for me personally. Doesn't mean it has to be the same for you. But yeah, that's my personal opinion. If I would have to choose two colors to buy, then I would choose the Buff Titan and the Cologne Bridge Green. Yeah. So yeah, beautiful colors, most of them nice to have, not a must-have, like it is with most pigment mixes, because most pigment mixes use colors that are easily to get. There are definitely some brands offering in their granulation or super granulating colors, colors that contains pigments that are not easily obtained, or even you don't just get as a single pigment color anywhere. So that is why I always mention that here we have all standard pigments. There's nothing super unique or which you can't get easily. So that is important to know for all those who want to mix the colors themselves. The only thing is, like I said, the Buff Titan, of course, it's a single pigment color, so there's no mixing here, but I can't really say if we have another brand having a super similar shade, just because I only do own two, this one and the Daniel Smith version, and they are definitely very different in the hue. So with all pigments you have a variation here as well. So yeah, hope that the video was interesting and helpful, and as always, a thumbs up or a follow is very much appreciated, because it really helps me in the channel. And I would love to hear your personal experiences with the colors, or your personal opinion. Do you have the colors? Which one do you love the most? And if you don't have the colors, do you consider buying some of them, and which one would you choose? Which are your personal favorites of the colors? If you have them or if you don't have them, doesn't matter. Yeah, would love to hear from you. Thanks so much for joining and watching the video. I hope you have a wonderful day, and to see you soon in one of my other videos. Bye bye.